This is a Maquis Masters video. If you are here, you are at the $50 level on Patreon, and I greatly appreciate that more than you know. It allows me to do things that I would not normally be able to do. You guys are the very top, and as a result of that, I'm going to give you the highest level of training I can possibly give. Now, in today's video, we are going to talk about loss aversion and the endowment effect as it applies to one's mind. In the basic level of psychological training with these two phenomenon, they talk about physical things that we strangely give an added value to simply because they're ours. When they're not ours, and this has been shown and proven in studies, you take a certain thing that someone does not own and they ask this person, how much would you pay for that? That number is always almost 50% less than what, if they owned it, they would sell it for. This was something that I, just to give you a personal anecdote, teaching my daughters about when it comes to buying a vehicle. My daughters are in their mid-20s now, but when they were young, of course, looking to purchase a vehicle, they're not going to buy something new right off the bat. So when they saw a car for sale for, let's say, $8,000, and they looked up online and they saw that it was, worth roughly that on Kelley Blue Book, I had to ask them a question. I said, now ask yourself this question. If the person who owns the car would rather have $8,000 than have the car, logic tells you the car is worth less than $8,000. Now, here's where things got a little complicated. People always ask more for something like a vehicle because they have a number they want to get, fearing someone's going to negotiate with them. So, in essence, that $8,000 car, let's say they're willing to come down to, say, $6,500. They still believe $6,500 is worth more than the car. So the actual car is worth even less than that. This is what a lot of people call lowballers, but it's actually a psychological concept. It's called the endowment effect. Because if that person who had that car had a choice between $6,500 and the car, they'd take the $6,500. Meaning the car isn't even worth what they're asking after negotiation. And that's not something a lot of people can get their mind around, is the idea of endowment effect and loss aversion. When we have something, we always give it more value. We have the endowment effect and we have loss aversion working simultaneously. Now, there's also this concept called framing. If you take the same choice, whether it's a choice politically or a choice in the grocery store or a choice of a mate, it's the exact same mental concept. And I'm going to walk through this slideshow here to show you how you can change the way people make choices simply by how you frame things. Here we go. Imagine that the U.S. is preparing for the outbreak of an unusual Asian disease, which is expected to kill 600 people. Choose a program to address the problem. Program A says 200 people will be saved of the 600 people. Program B says there's a 33% chance that everyone gets saved, or a 2/3 chance that no one gets saved. Well, I think a lot of people would understand the choice here. Of course, 72% of the people said that they would just cut their losses and take the death of 400 to avoid the 66% chance that you could lose everything. Now, let's frame it completely differently. Imagine that the U.S. is preparing for an outbreak of an unusual Asian disease, which is expected to kill 600 people. Choose a program to address the problem. A. Instead of 200 people will be saved, we're going to say 400 people will die. Choice B. 1/3 chance that nobody will die, or a 2/3 chance that 600 people will die. I know this is going to blow your mind, but this is what the result was in this study. It completely flipped because you're talking about a completely different frame of reference. How many people will die versus how many people are saved. You would think that would be inherent in the question, but people are predictable. Now, when you talk about choices, we have this thing called diversification bias. And I know this is where this is going to get a little bit complicated when you're trying to wrap your mind around ideas of endowment effect and loss aversion. When you talk about diversification bias, people will always choose the options that give them more options. This is why certain people in certain states of mind always will maintain cash on hand. They will never invest it, because investing limits your options. If you put X amount of money in a mutual fund, if you take it out, you're going to lose a bunch of it, but you have a chance of growing it 10 or 15 or 20%. Certain people in certain states of mind, you can understand very clearly, will always maintain maximum options all the time. It exists at the lowest levels of Maslow's hierarchy. The people at the very highest levels do not have this mental weakness. And this is why they're very difficult at very high levels to manipulate, which is why you have to bring people down in Maslow's triangle hierarchy to get them to the point where they can be moved one way or the other. And you can reframe things for them so that they can understand that one option is better than others. Let me see if I can find the right tab here. Here we go. This is the one. Now, another experiment, and we'll leave it with this. You have an option of choosing 3 doors. There's a payoff box behind the door, and every time you click it, you get a certain amount of money. Sometimes 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 5. But the average will always be 3 cents. And you get a total of 50 clicks. Now, you can click this all you want, or you can open another door and you can begin clicking that. Maybe the averages will work out that it's higher, but you don't know. But switching will use up one of your clicks. But even though all of them have the same average, the best strategy, of course, would be just stick with one door and keep clicking, since the average is the same for all of them, and you don't want to lose one of your clicks just by clicking on another door, right? That would make sense. But here's what happens when you reframe it. Now, even with that, people still switch at least once, thinking that they're going to find the lucky door. Now, each time you click on a door, after 15 clicks on the box, the other doors disappear, meaning you won't have that option anymore. People, instead of using the exact same strategy, which would be the best average strategy to use, framed this way, they switch doors 7 times because they want to maintain all of the doors, even though no door is any more valuable than any other door. This applies to politics. This applies to this Republican tyranny. This is a psychological concept that the politicians know very, very well. That no matter what the pluses and minuses are, the averages of what you'll get out of either a Republican or a Democrat will always be the same. But people would never consider the idea of calling that one party, even though everything stays the same no matter who's in charge. Loss aversion, the endowment effect, the political state they believe, and diversification bias all work together here to keep people locked in to a mental state. It's very difficult to break. So we'll leave it there and we'll let you guys review. If there's any questions, please let me know. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you next week. Thank you.